Today I'm going to show you how to make this jacket. This jacket can be made exactly to your measurements and exactly to your preferences. You can make it longer or shorter. You don't have to put the hood on it. You can change the length of the sleeves. This jacket can be made exactly how you want it to look. And that is why I think that this is the only jacket pattern you will ever need. Hello and welcome to OMG Crochet and Crafts. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a moss stitch cropped jacket. Now you can make this out of any yarn with any hook size because it's going to be made specifically for your measurements. So I'm going to show you how to do that. For my jacket, I'm going to be using the Knitco Aran yarn in black and white. I'm going to be using my furls hook, size 5mm H furls hook. I've got my scissors. I've got my tape measure. Tape measure is going to be very important for this. And then you'll need things like stitch markers and tapestry needles to weave in your ends, etc. So to get started, you're also going to need a top or a cardigan that you wear regularly. Something that fits your body well, that doesn't have a lot of... it depends on how you want this cardigan to fit you. If you have one that is a bit loose that you would like to model this on, you by all means use that. I'm using something a bit tighter because I want this to be more of a fitted garment. So I am using this little cardigan. As you can see, that's what I am using. So I'm going to turn this over onto the back like so. And I am going to measure from armhole to armhole, under the arms, like so. That is the measurement that I need right now. So I'm going to take my tape measure, measure all the way across there, and I've got 55 centimeters. So that is the measurement that I need. So to start this, you will take whatever yarn you're using and you will create a chain that will measure up to the measurement of the garment that you've just taken. So mine needs to be 55 centimeters. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this on a smaller piece because I've already actually started the cardigan. I'll show you that that's all there. But I'm going to show you on a smaller piece how to get started. So with whatever yarn and whatever hook you're using, you are going to create a chain. So chain like so. Now keep your tape measure out to the measurement that you need. So like I said, mine was 55 centimeters. And then you create a chain the length that you need, 55 centimeters. However, if you end up on an odd number, I need you to add one more so that you've got an even number of stitches. You'll need an even number of stitches for moss stitch. So I am just creating a chain. This is mainly so I can show you the pattern and how to create the moss stitch pattern itself. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so I can tell you, because I've already made the back piece for this cardigan, I actually needed 74 chains in Aran yarn to make up 55 stitches. So however many stitches you need to add up to your specific measurement, that is how many you create on your chain. But just make sure that it is an even number, okay? So I have got my even number of chains here. And like I said, this is just a sample piece so that I can show you how to create the moss stitch pattern. Okay, so we're going to pause it there and I will be right back. So to create a moss stitch pattern, you need to create a chain with an even number of chains to start. So my piece is 20 chains wide. However many you need for whatever you're making, just make sure it's an even number of chains, okay? So to start the pattern, we are going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook, okay? So we're going to skip this one and go into this one here. So single crochet. We're then going to chain one, skip a chain, and single crochet. And then chain one, skip a chain, and single crochet. And we're going to continue to do that. Chain one, skip a chain, and single crochet into the next one. Going to continue to do that all the way across our chain. So single crochet, chain one, skip a chain, and single crochet. Skip a chain, single crochet. Chain one, skip a chain, single crochet. Oops. Chain one, skip a chain, single crochet. Chain one, skip a chain, single crochet. And then at the end, you chain one, skip a chain, and single crochet into the very last chain. Okay, so that was your setup row. Now every row after this, regardless of the color change, is going to be worked in the same way. Okay, we're going to chain one and turn. You are going to single crochet into that first stitch, that same stitch that you chained one into. You're going to single crochet into the next stitch, and then you're going to chain one and single crochet into the chain spaces of the previous row. So chain one, you're skipping the single crochet and single crocheting into the chain space of the previous row. Chain one, you skip the single crochet and single crochet into the chain space of the previous row. And you continue to do that across the entire row. Let's pull some more yarn out. And you end the row with a chain one and single crochet into that final stitch. Okay, so that is your first two rows. Now I'm going to change color now and add in the black. Oops. My yarn is falling apart, but so be it. So here we're going to swap over to black. Okay, so you change your color by chaining into that, you pull your white stitch down, and then you chain one, okay, and turn your work. You then single crochet into the very first stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, and then we chain 1 and single crochet into the chain spaces of the previous row. So every row will start with a chain 1, 2 single crochets, and then chain 1 and single crochet into the chain spaces of the previous row. And as I'm working across this row, you can see the moss stitch pattern that is being created. And if you notice, when I changed colors, so let me just put this last stitch in. When I changed colors, I didn't cut off my white yarn because I'm going to change colors again at the end of this row. So I'm going to leave this white yarn on there and just trail the colors up the side as I work on my piece. Okay, so we're at the end of our row. We're going to start a new row. So we chain 1, single crochet into the first stitch, single crochet into the second stitch, and then chain 1, single crochet into the chain space for the rest of the row. And that is how you work moss stitch. It's a very simple stitch. It works up very quickly. I love it for the design that it's created. Once I finish this row, I will show you the piece that I'm working on at the moment, and you will see how incredible the design is. So we're going to single crochet into that last stitch. And then to change back to white, we drop the black, pick up the white, we chain into that black, pull the black tighter, not too tight that it squashes the row, but tighter, and then we chain 1, and we single crochet into the first stitch, single crochet into the second stitch, and then chain 1, single crochet into the chain space for the rest of the row. Okay, and even on this piece, you can see the pattern that it creates. But if I move this aside, that is the moss stitch pattern that I have created. It's beautiful. So using that moss stitch, I have created a piece which is 55 centimeters wide and 55 centimeters long. So that is my first square piece, okay? I have then created, so I've got to find this piece, the 2 front pieces as well. Throw that one down too, like so. Okay, so in order to create your front pieces, you will literally half the number of stitches that you used for the back piece. And again, if that half turns out to be an odd number, like for example, my back piece was 74 stitches wide. So 74 divided by 2 is 37. So each of my front pieces are 38 stitches wide. And that is how I have created the front and the back of this cardigan. So once you have reached the stage where you have got your back piece and your 2 front pieces, we need to sew in the shoulder seams. So how you'll do that is you will line up your front piece to your back piece, like so. And using mattress stitch, which I will show you in a second, we are going to sew halfway across the shoulder. Okay, I'm going to show you on one side, and then I'll do the other side. Okay, so this is my back piece and this is my front piece. And I have a needle threaded with the same color thread as the yarn used at the bottom of, sorry, I lost my words for a second there. So we want the thread to be the same color as what's at the bottom here. And I'm going to start this by just pulling, leaving a tail of 2 to 3 inches. I'm going to start in the very corner of my front piece, and I'm going to add the very corner of my back piece. Okay. And now I'm not going to pull this tight, but you're going to need to pull this tight as you go along. So you can, I'm going to show you what it's like as I do it. So I'm going to go, pull this up a bit closer. I'm going to go into this piece here and just under that section of stitches there on one side and pull my yarn through. Again, I'm not pulling it tight so that you can see what I'm doing. And then we're going to go in through this piece and under this first stitch here on this side and pull it through. And then where we came out on this side, we're going to go back in and pick up the next lot of stitches. And again, on the other side, we're going to go in, pick up the next lot of stitches and come out like so. Okay. And then you can pull it tight. When you do, hold the end piece so you don't pull that through, and pull your yarn quite tight like so. So you don't want to pull it too tight that it ripples, but you want to pull it tight enough that you don't see your stitches like so. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing this. Until I've got halfway across the front of my jacket, cardigan. Okay, don't forget, every few stitches, pull it tight. Again, not too tight that it ripples, and hold on to that end piece so you don't pull it through. Okay, about halfway done. In through there. There. Pull it tight again. And that is almost halfway. I think we've got 2 or 3 more stitches on either side. I think 2 more stitches on either side should do it. And there we go. So pull that tight. And there we go. We've sewn halfway across. So that is going to be our shoulder seam. And this is going to be our neck opening. So you're going to want to do that on the other side as well. So match up the other side and do exactly the same, sewing mattress stitch across halfway of the other front and back seams. So once you have both of your shoulder seams sewn up, this is where we're going to start picking up stitches to add a hood. So if you're doing 2 colors like I am, you're going to want the opposite color to whatever is around the neck there. Okay, so for me that's black, and we're going to start on this side and into that first stitch there. We're going to chain 1, connect the yarn, chain 1, and then like we've done before, we're going to single crochet into that first stitch. Oops. single crochet into the next stitch, and then we are going to chain one and then single crochet into the chain spaces, just like we did before. Okay, and you're going to continue to work in moss stitch for this hood. So you're just creating straight rows for roughly, bear with me, I'm just going to work out the math to tell you how many different color changes there are going to be. So after doing a little bit of math, you're going to want to continue working in moss stitch. So if you're doing two colors like me, you're going to want to do 22 color changes. If you're working in more than two colors, if you're working multiple colors, working differently to this pattern specifically, you'll need to work 44 rows of straight moss stitch. So 44 rows backwards and forwards across the neck and the shoulder, well, the neck, the front and the back of the neck of this piece, and that will create your hood. So this is where I'm at now. I have created my hood and I have joined it. So how you join it, once you've got your 44 rows, you're going to join it, literally fold the hood over so that each side meets in the middle, and you join it using mattress stitch, and do it carefully because you can barely tell that there is a join on this. This piece looks like every other white piece that there is, but it is a seam for my hood. Okay, so using mattress stitch, we're just going to fold each of the corners for the hood in till they're meeting, and we're going to take a darning needle and some thread, and we are going to use mattress stitch to join these two pieces going upwards. Okay, once you've got that, get all of your threads sewn away, so where you've joined, where you've ended, and we are then going to move on to joining up the sides so that we can create armholes and start working on the sleeves. Okay, so once you have threaded away all of your ends, you're left with a piece that looks like this. This is where you're going to need to pop this piece on. You're going to need to pop this piece on with the shoulder seams on your shoulders. You can even put the hood on your head when you do that. But you need to measure how big you need your armhole to be. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this on me quickly. So what I've done is I placed a stitch marker on the side where I need my armhole to go. Okay, so what I need to do is using mattress stitch again, and it doesn't matter what color thread here because you're mixing both, but using mattress stitch, I'm going to sew all the way up here until I meet this stitch marker, and I'm going to fold this over, measure it against the other side, and place another stitch marker in exactly the same place on the other side. But when you do it, make sure that you're measuring up like for like. So if your stitch marker is in a black stitch on this side, it should go on a black stitch on this side. And there we go, it goes in here. So using mattress stitch, we are going to sew up both sides. It's to go in here, sorry, I've put it in the bottom instead of in the top. Okay, so yeah, using mattress stitch on both sides of these, we're going to sew up the sides till we meet the stitch markers. Once we've done that, we are going to start adding sleeves. So, to zoom out, as you can see, I have lined up the sides so that they matched up as I've sewn them up, and we now have our armhole separate. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the white yarn and we're going to pick up a single crochet for every row. Okay, and we're just going to do a row of plain single crochets in white first, before we then start the moss stitch pattern again. So grab your, for me it's going to be white yarn. You choose whichever yarn works best for you. And we're going to start doing some single crochets. Just grabbing my white yarn. Okay, so I like to start underneath the arm because it is easy to sew your ends away into the seam on the side there. So I'm going to join my yarn there. And for every row, I'm going to do a single crochet. Just like so. Sorry, you couldn't really see me off camera there. So for every row, we're going to do one single crochet. Okay, so work your way around the arm and join the seam at the bottom there with a slip stitch. I'm going to get this done and I will be back in just a second. So now that we've got our yarn connected again, we are going to start our moss stitch pattern again. So we've slip stitched into the first stitch, so we're going to chain one and we're going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then we're going to chain one, skip one and single crochet, chain one, skip one and single crochet. And we're going to continue to do that. Excuse me, my nose is running now. We're going to continue to do that all the way around. So I'm going to get that done and I will meet you back when we come to this end. So we have worked our row of moss stitch all the way around. We're back at the other side of our row now, where we're about to join. So these last stitches here, and you'll find that you might have two single crochets next to each other. That's fine. Just make sure that those are right underneath your arm, like so, and it won't even be noticeable. So after this row of white, we're going to join our black yarn and do our row of black moss stitch. So we join the black yarn and chain one, and then I'm going to pull the white tight. I'm also not going to chop off the white. It's going to follow up inside the arm the same way as it did on the side of the project. So we're going to single crochet there and then into the first chain space there, and then we're going to chain one, single crochet into the chain space, just like we did before. And you're going to carry on working in moss stitch straight all the way down your arm. Now, if you feel like you want to make some decreases down your arm to make the sleeve more fitted to your arm, by all means go ahead. I prefer a straight sleeve going down, so I won't be adding any or taking any stitches out of this. So I'm going to continue working my moss stitch all the way down the arm, and I will come back once my sleeve is finished. So as you can see, I have completed the sleeve, and on the cuff here I have finished it off with a very simple crab stitch, and I'm now going to do exactly the same on the other side, but when I get to the cuff on the other side, I'm going to show you how I finished it off. So I've got that work to do, but through the magic of editing, here we are with the other sleeve, and I've worked all the way down to the cuff, and I'm now going to show you how to do the crab stitch. Now I have got a tutorial on my page for the crab stitch on its own if you want to work that, but just follow this along anyway. So we have done our final row of moss stitch, so I'm now going to chain 1, and I'm going to work a single crochet into every stitch along the top of the sleeve. So just plain and simple single crochet all the way around. Right, so I'll get that done and I will be right back. Okay, so we've worked all the way around the cuff of the sleeve. This is the final stitch that I have to do. And we are going to slip stitch into that first stitch to join the round. So we're now going to work crab stitch around the cuff, and crab stitch is essentially, well, it is not essentially, it is exactly reverse single crochet. So instead of working from right to left like we would normally do, we're now going to work from left to right. So I'm going to take my hook, go backwards into the stitch behind me, grab my yarn, pull it through, and finish off the stitch. I'm going to go into the next stitch, grab my yarn, pull it through, and finish off the stitch. Into the next stitch, grab my yarn, pull it through, and finish off the stitch. Okay, and we are going to keep doing that all the way around the cuff. And this is a quick process. It takes the same amount of time as it does to single crochet the row. So there we are. I'm going to get the rest of this row finished. I'm probably about a quarter of the way so far. Oh, let's do that again. There we go. So I'm going to get the rest of this row done, and I will come back at the end for the joining. Okie dokie, so we're at the end of the row, and I'm going to show you how to join this off. So to join it off, I'm going to make sure the yarn is pulled to the left-hand side or to the front of my hook, and I'm going to turn the work inside, and see this, let's see if you can see that, this stitch here. I'm going to go in from the front of the stitch to the back of the stitch, and pull this yarn through, and then a slip stitch at the end. Find my scissors. There they are. Snip that off. And there we have our completed crab stitch row. So what crab stitch does essentially is it twists the stitches over on this top row, and I think it creates a beautiful finishing for any piece of work. Okay, I am now going to get my ends woven away, and then I will be back to show you how we're going to finish off, put the finishing touches on the jacket. So I lost the sound in this part of the video, so I'm going to attempt a voiceover that will explain what I've done. My voiceover may not match exactly what is happening on screen, but I will try. I started on the lower left-hand side of the jacket, worked up and around the hood to the lower right-hand side, picking up a single crochet every row. Then working from the lower right-hand corner around the hood and back down to the lower left-hand corner, I worked a row of half double crochets. I then detached the yarn and rejoined on the lower right-hand side of the work. So the right side of the work was facing me. I did this because I didn't like the look of the wrong side of the crab stitch. So I wanted the right side of the crab stitch to be facing the right side of the garment. So I had to detach the yarn and reattach it to the lower right hand corner. Once I'd done this, I then worked crab stitch up the right hand side. But as I was working, I noticed that the border itself was larger than the jacket and was starting to ripple and look untidy. So I realized that at that point that adding a single crochet for every row made the border too large. By then working crab stitch, which stretches out your work a little bit, it made it even larger. So to correct for this, what I did while working the crab stitch was I worked 4 stitches into 3, essentially doing a decrease on every 4th stitch or 3rd stitch. So to do this, I worked the first stitch is crab stitch as normal, the second crab stitch as normal, and I think the 3rd and 4th stitch I worked together. So like this, I worked the first stitch, there we go, as normal, the second stitch as normal, I didn't realize I was having these issues while I was doing this. I then worked into the 3rd stitch, picked up the yarn, and then into the 4th stitch, picked up the yarn, and then finished off the stitch. I didn't do that in this part, but let's try it again. So I worked into the 3rd stitch, grabbed the yarn, into the 4th stitch, grabbed the yarn, and then finished off the stitch. So I then continued. I'll do the first stitch as normal, the second stitch as normal, and then work into the 3rd stitch, pick up the yarn, and then into the 4th stitch, pick up the yarn, and finish off the stitch. And I worked the entire row like this. So from the bottom right hand corner all the way up and around the hood, and then back down to the lower left hand corner. Every 3rd and 4th stitch were worked together. So I continued to do this. As you can see, this makes the border lie flat against the fabric. There's no rippling going on here. It's just a nice, clean border. So here we've come down to the last 4 stitches on the lower left-hand side of our border. And I decided that I wasn't going to do a decrease here. The decrease would have caused that very last stitch to almost round off at the bottom, and I didn't want that. I wanted it to be a corner. So I worked it as normal. After working the stitch, I finished off the row by slipping the stitch into the space below it, like so. And then pulling the yarn through. And that was it. So at this point, you're going to have some ends to sew away. You've got, I had 3 ends on the lower left-hand corner that needed to be threaded away, and 1 on the right-hand corner, I believe. So all of these ends needed to be threaded away. And that is the last of the crocheting of our jacket. So this is the finished jacket. You can see the edging of it over here. Let me get down closer to it. Pull it apart a bit so you can see it better. See how the edging is lying. I think it has ended up to be perfect, actually. The 4 stitches into 3 really worked out well. And the jacket itself is absolutely stunning. So I need to add a closure to it, and we're just going to put 1 on right in the center over there. And these are the 2 that I am choosing between. Let's have a look what they look like. It's pretty, but I think the closure stands out too much. So I think the silver is the best way to go. Yeah, I think that's turned out. So that is our finished jacket. If you check on my socials, you will see there will be videos and reels and shorts and whatever of me wearing the jacket. But for now, this is where we are going to part ways. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel helps me to create more videos like this, and I really do love creating this kind of content. If you do end up making this jacket, please send me pictures, tag me in your post. I would love to see what you've made. But for now, happy crocheting. Help me to create more of these tutorials by liking and sharing this video and subscribing to my channel.